Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher, and today I'm going to be demonstrating the satin stitch. Now before you leave and think I've already done the satin stitch, how can she tell me anything that I don't already know? Well, I may not be able to tell you anything you don't already know, but I use interesting threads in a way that you hadn't thought of, or I'm using the satin stitch in different ways that you hadn't thought of using before. So stick around, because I'm hoping I have a few tricks up my sleeve and a couple of things that perhaps you haven't seen before or have seen and weren't sure how to reproduce it. Don't forget to hit that like button, click on the subscribe button and the little bell that pops up for email notifications, and talk to me. I love hearing from you in the comments section. Grab something to stitch with, a needle and some thread, and let's get stitching. I'm doing the satin stitch. This is with my House of Embroidery 5 weight. It's number 4A. This is the satin stitch, just doing it around in sort of these little shapes. This also is the satin stitch done in kind of a checkerboard. And this is done in a soft cotton painter's thread, a number 3 weight. So I'm just going to continue here. And the satin stitch is just a straight stitch close together. It can be done in any shape. It can be done in any thread weight. In order to do the circle, I have to just be aware of coming in much closer when I'm in the center and allowing those legs a little more room as I come out. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. You can also do a satin stitch where you're covering another stitch. So for example, if I wanted to create a kind of bulk to this, I could have done a chain stitch underneath in some random thread, whatever I felt like. And then I would do my satin stitch over it, and it would create a kind of three-dimensional effect, and I'll show you. So that's what I did here. I did a chain stitch, and then I did my satin stitch over the chain, and it creates this kind of rope look. So there are a lot of different possibilities for the satin stitch. Now, the satin stitch that many of us have seen done a lot is where you do a short row, and then you do a short row, and then you come in and you do a longer, and then a longer here, and you alternate, and you create this kind of a different look that can be used for all different colors. There's a woman, what is her name? She does amazing just beautiful, really thread painting. Birds and things like that. Trisha, I want to say Barr, I'm not sure that's right though. Very representational things she creates with thread and with that stitch. I'm not doing that. I'm doing much more organic, kind of abstract. This isn't meant to be anything that we would be able to identify. And I'm just going to keep going around and just making sure that these don't cross over each other. So there's that. Done 3 different sizes. I can do others. I can come in here if I want and do just a couple that are going back and forth. One thing I want to be sure is that I'm not pulling, so I don't want this fabric to bunch. I want it to just lay on top of the linen. And now maybe I come down and I do some verticals. And now maybe I come back and do some horizontal. I can create this kind of checkerboard pattern. And now I can go up here. I wanted to show you a couple other ideas about ways in which the satin stitch can be used. Here, where I've just done it emanating out with Oriental linen. So there it is in Oriental linen. Here it is in soft cotton in a kind of checkerboard. This is in House of Embroidery, a 5-weight pearl cotton. And this is more Oriental linen. This is the House of Embroidery. And then this is where I had a stitch I didn't like. It was a stem stitch and I was doing it. I didn't like the way it looked. And I covered it with the satin stitch. And that's what I'm going to do here. This was actually a live stream video that I did on the split stitch. And I pulled out this really beautiful, vibrant, metallic red. It's actually this. This is painter's thread. It's a ribbon floss shimmer. And I thought at the time it was really nice. If I zoom back a little, you'll see how it's really calling attention to itself. And so I'm going to cover it with a satin stitch using my House of Embroidery. I'm using an 18 chenille needle. And I'm just going to come up and I'm going to encase it in this thread. And this is one of the lovely things about this stitch, is that it's really versatile. You can use it for all kinds of different things. So I'm keeping these stitches fairly close together. It's a bright magenta red color, so I'm okay actually if it sticks out a little bit, but for the most part, I want to encase it in this other color. And what I'm going to get is a kind of raised cord look. You could just lay a thread down and couch it with this. But you can see how that's going to look. I have a little bit of red showing here. I may do something about that, I may not. This is t-shirt fabric that I dyed, and it was really bright, so then I boiled up some black tea and let it soak in some tea, and that calmed it down a little bit. I then attached it with French knots. So I have another little bit of red showing. I think that's okay. I'll know more when I've finished. If it really is calling attention to itself, I may cover it. I may just add a French knot or something to it. I'm not pulling very hard. As you can see, it goes fairly quickly. Now I may leave some of the red and just continue it down this way. This is using it as with the Petite Fairy Velvet. Maybe I decide to leave this. Not sure. I may keep going, I may not. In any case, I think that gives you an idea of some of the things you can do and the different threads that you can use. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this gave you some ideas about using this stitch. It's a really basic stitch and it can be used in a whole variety of different ways. But it's lovely to cover things. You can cover really anything, objects that you could lay down. Don't forget to hit that like button, click on the subscribe button, and check out the description section where I'll leave links for the various threads I've shown here. Until next time, here's to stitching together.